Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we've got some mint on card vintage Star Wars figures that sold on eBay. Some at auction, some were making offers, and unfortunately 130point.com, the tool that I use for finding the best offer accepted, is not working today for some reason. So we don't know the final sales prices, but I can at least show you a general price range for some of these items. There were some good deals, and some of these were from CIB, which is affiliated with AFA. These sold before my what to buy video actually went live. So anyway, you know, it is what it is. But I think if things are priced right and they're in really good condition, they seem to be selling pretty quick based on some of these sales. We're going to start off with one of CIB's items, which was an AFA 75 Harbert Italian 12-back Stormtrooper. These Harbert Italian card backs are just really awesome. The card backs just scream foreign, right? They just got everything going on. I'm not going to do my Italian accent again. I'll spare you guys that. But this was a beautiful clear blister AFA 75, and you can see how beautiful that is. Look at that. I mean, that is just awesome. Having the full, you know, Italian language card back for the Stormtrooper. I don't know which ones are the most rare. I feel like I see the Tusken Raider and Chewbacca most commonly for these Harbert Italians, but this one was listed for $1,500. Again, I did have it in a what to buy video, but it sold like 5 hours after I made that video and before it went live. So it was listed again for $1,500, best offer accepted. Again, I can't tell you what the final sales price was. 75, 75, 80 were the sub scores, but that one was a stunner, and I've got one more from them a little bit later on. Here was a 20-back C-3PO. At first blush, you think that there's something weird going on the blister, and he was kind enough to show some multiple angles on it. And, you know, the more I look at it, I don't see really anything terribly wrong with it. It's just maybe, you know, light wear to it. You can see there at the top, there's one little ding or something going on, but it looks to be fully sealed. A little bit of wave to the card, a little bit of crease here and there, so that's why it sold for the price it did. You can see a scratch. Well, I think that scratch that you see going through the nameplate, that was on the sliding acrylic case, because when you look at the photos of the item outside of the case, you don't see the scratch anymore. So I'm guessing this is like a 75 grade. That's my guess on that. Maybe a 70, somewhere in between there. And it sold for $293.88. $293. So pretty good deal, I think, for what it was. We had this one that sold in an auction. This was a 32A Boba Fett. So an offerless ESB Boba Fett. It was still clear blister. Obviously, as we talked about in the past, the ESB Boba Fett figure does suffer from degradation, and that is definitely going on with this one. You can see, even from left to right on his hands and his arm, how much darker and closer to factory correct the figure is versus the plastic on the right-hand side. And it's just one of those weird things that they changed up the plastic they used for Boba Fett, going from the original Star Wars 21 backs to the ESB card backs, and most of the ESBs have this issue where the figure just degrades inside. And then once they went back to Return of the Jedi line, they fixed it. You don't really see this kind of whitening of the figure, degradation of the figure for most Return of the Jedis, if any. I mean, I don't know. On the top of my head, I don't remember any Return of the Jedis that had this issue. But this is a common thing you got to look for on ESBs. And I would argue that if you buy one that doesn't have this issue, that's on an ESB card back, specifically an earlier card back, you're probably going to have this happen to it eventually. That's my guess. But this one sold for $31.75, so still a big number despite the figure grade of most likely a 75 at best. But the card was in great shape, unpunched, no price sticker. Beautiful clear blister, so it's $31.75 on that Boba Fett. And then we had two different debut cards for the Luke Hoth that sold. Neither one of them were perfect. This one did have the clear blister, but it did have a lot of creasing and edge wear at the top of the card and on the left-hand side of the card. It still sold for $390 in an auction, And then this one was a high grade example, AFA 85, unpunched, no price sticker. Well, it did have a little bit of sticker shadow there on the right-hand side of the card that you can see. But the blister was yellowed, which is a common thing for the Luke Hoth on the debut card, the 45 bag. But it was still an 85 grade, so it sold for $510. Pretty decent price, probably a pretty fair price for what that is. I had a 47 back for the same character that was also slightly yellowed, a little bit less than what this one is, and it sold for about the same price. I think $495, somewhere in there. So, two different examples for the debut card. We had another yellowed blister. This one was for the 48C IG88, and that one was listed for $474. This one sat on the market for a little bit. It did finally sell with the best offer accepted, AFA 80 for that IG88 on a tougher to find 48 back C. We had the Rebel Armored Snowspeeder. This one was not factory sealed. This one was a qualified blue label AFA 80. Still sold for $815.99. We have seen some high-grade examples on Hakes go for huge money when they are factory sealed. Again, this one was the qualified blue label, so that means unused contents but no longer factory sealed, and it sold for $816 in an auction. We had a clear blister 77 back R2-D2 sensor scope. A little bit of yellowing to the sticker on the figure, but still clear blister from what I can tell there. And unpunched, no price sticker. $355 feels like a pretty good deal. Feels like a pretty good deal for a clear blister. And there's the subgrades there, 75, 85, 85. So I think the 75 subscore on the card is the reason that this one held back. I don't know why it got the 75. The only thing I can think of is that there's a crease that's non-color breaking on this card somewhere. Looking at the back, you can see maybe a little, yeah, there it is. There's the faint crease to the right of the hang tab, right where the Death Star droid is on the top of the card. There's a very faint crease there that probably goes through on the front of the card as well. We just can't see it in these really terrible photos. It's very blurry. So that's what I'm guessing is why this one stayed relatively low. But I think, honestly, that's a great deal at $355 for a clear blister R2-D2. And this one was listed for $400. This was a tri-logo AT-AT Commander, graded AFA 80, archival case, unpunched, no price sticker, very clean example. And this one I know sold for $350 because somebody bought it using my eBay affiliate links. So whoever you were, thank you very much for using the eBay affiliate links. Really appreciate the channel support. I sent this out to my Patreons yesterday as a buy it now alert or make an offer alert, because it did have a make an offer option, and $350 was the sales price. Great price, in my opinion, for what it is. Not often that you see the AT-AT Commander in such a high grade, and $350 I think is right in line with fair market value. Now we're on to a number of different Power of the Force mint on cards that sold. Some of them at auction. I think almost all of these are at auction. Actually, I know two that were not. They were sent out, I remember, as buy it now alerts. But this one is the Ramba. Unpunched, no price sticker, $243.75, just light yellowing, or $243.50, excuse me, plus shipping on that one. Pretty fair deal. That's right in line with market. We had an AFA 75 for Han Carbonite. That one sold for $440.75. I mean, I've seen AFA 80s go for close to double that price, so I thought that was a great deal for what that was. And here is that Biker Scout, a little bit out of order, but this is the Biker Scout I had in a what to buy video. This is a Palatoy 65 back B, and it did sell apparently for $500, not a make an offer. And you know, that one was a beauty. I'm sorry that it didn't make it to when the what to buy video hit, but this was a beautiful archival clear blister AFA 80 Palatoy. You don't see those pop up very much. I don't remember the last time I've seen one of these Palatoy, straight Palatoy card backs. The tri-logos you do see a lot, but this one you do not, and it did sell at $500. Back to the Power of the Force line, got a little out of order there, but this was a CAS 80 Darth Vader, and this one sold for $707, which is probably about right. AFA 80s can go for about the same price, if not maybe even a little bit more, $800, maybe even $900 for a fairly high-grade unpunched AFA 80. So for a CAS 80, $707, 29 bids on that one, very fair deal. Here were the two that, I don't remember if I sent this one out. I think I sent both of the next two out to my Patreon supporters. I don't know if any of y'all bought it or not, but this one was the R2-D2 pop-up lightsaber. This one did not stay on the market very long. It sold very quickly, not surprising, at $900. It was a very clean, unpunched example, and it did sell at $900. Maybe there could be some ink touch-up below the ages 4 and up. I'm not sure. It looks like it's just sticker residue to me, but it's very possible that this one did have some ink touch-up. I'm not sure on that. This one is the other one I really liked. This was the Luke Skywalker in Stormtrooper disguise, light yellowing, and unpunched, no price sticker. That one sold for $1,100. And this was a very clean card. I mean, you could maybe make an argument here in the right-hand corner that it had a little bit of overheating. And this is something we touched on in a fairly recent video for a Lando skiff guard, where that when the helmet gets sealed to the card, sometimes these wacky things happen where it gets overheated in one area, and that's exactly what happened here on that Luke. So I still think this one's an 80 or an 80 plus all day long, and it sold for $1,100. Back to this seller that had a number of Power of the Force at auction. This was an AFA 75 plus for Yoda on the Power of the Force card. And we know how hard it is to find this one. In higher grade, it can go for closer to $3,000. So this was right in line with market at $2,378. So very, very expensive character on the Power of the Force card back at almost $2,400. Same seller also had an AFA 75 plus A-Wing fighter. I believe I might have had this one in a What to Buy video as well. That one sold for $14,490. $14,490. That's a pretty fair deal, I think, for a 75 plus. We've seen some AFA 80s on alternate auction house websites go for in the 2000s plus. So $1,400 is probably, very much in line with fair market value. And then to finish things off, I've got two cartoon Ewoks figures. Neither one of them were perfect. The Logray had some creasing on the bottom right-hand side of the card. Unpunched though, no price sticker. That one sold for $220. And then the same seller also had Wicket. That one sold for $537. That was a pretty clean example, probably about an AFA 80 from what I can tell there. And again, $537 in an auction for the Wicket. Both the Wicket and the Logray, as we've talked about, are made in Mexico. So they are from the Lily Letty factory and do tend to command a premium versus some of the other characters from the Ewoks cartoon line. That is all I've got for this video. If you liked it, be sure to leave me a like. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.